Hi, I'm Kelly Marchand McNeely with Yarfield.com. Today we have an interview with production designer Edward Thomas, who has just worked on The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is a fantastic film, by the way. Spooky, scary, dark, and brutal. It pulls no punches. Be sure to check it out and check out our interview where he takes us behind the scenes and tells us what it takes to make a movie like this.
Evil is on board. Powerful evil.
We call him Dracula.
The Demeter, on charter from Romania to London. Shipping private crates. Contents unknown. Out at sea with no land in sight.
This here is Clemens. He's a doctor.
You dress like a learned man.
University of Cambridge. I know my way around the boat.
Our charter has agreed to pay a bonus for timely arrival in London.
Let me show you the ship. This here is Huckleberry. We don't come with like this to give the eels clear.
Demeter's a fine boat, no doubt.
Something ripped apart the animals.
All the livestock.
This looks like a bite.
Search the ship. Everywhere. Evil is on board. Powerful evil.
In the night, it drinks our blood. He is here. We call him Dracula.
He's coming!
Did you see the size of that bloody thing?
I want to kill the cursed thing.
He is on this ship, which means that we will never leave it.
The devil is real.
May God have mercy on us all.
Thanks so much for talking with us.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure to be here.
Right, and do you go by Edward or Eddie or?
Edward's fine, Ed's fine, whatever you want.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, first off, can you explain to our readers and viewers exactly what it is that you do?
So I'm a production designer. Very often my crew ask me that, but I'll try to explain it. So I'll get a call from a producer or a director, and they'll say, hey, we're making a movie. Do you want to come and help us control and look after and stylize the look of the movie? And by that means sort of working with the set designers, the art directors, in the terms of the Demeter, the riggers, the stunt performers, costume, makeup, basically everything that's to do with the visual that's not the actors. I'm sort of involved in terms of color, texture, scale, safety is a big part of it. You know, making sure that everything happens correctly on the day, and that you know, if you build a set, it's got fire exits, down to, you know, working with the set decorators to what color the bedclothes should be on the ship. So really, it's looking after the design elements and the wallpaper, the background of the movie or the TV series, and that's basically trying to, you know, take the lead from the producer and the director and make sure that their vision is committed to camera 100%.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's quite a lot, yeah. It's quite a lot.
It's a big job. How many do you usually have working on your crew?
Well, that can vary, you know. In terms of Demeter, I think we had about 5 or 6 art directors, because you have an art director for one studio, the second studio. We had art directors in Malta. You have quite a large set decorating team. We had 2 or 3 graphic artists. You have sort of furniture designers, and then you get to the construction guys. And you know, on a film like Demeter, you might have 300 construction people, carpenters, scenic artists, sculptors, model makers. And of course, on Demeter, we were sort of spread across 2 countries. We started the movie in Berlin, so that was one team in Berlin, and then we transferred to Malta for all the exterior stuff. So you're running 2 teams in tandem at that point, you know. But a key person for me is a person called a supervising art director, who really sort of looks after the budget and keeps everybody on track, which allows me then to be creative. And then of course you've got the whole standby team. So you've got standby art directors, props, standby set decorators, people on the actual film, the front line itself with the filmmakers, making sure that everything that we've done behind the scenes is actually committed on the day, you know, because we can do all the work we want behind the scenes, but if it's not shot on camera on the day, then it's a waste, you know. So they're really important, the standby team, to make sure that all gets on camera.
It's amazing. Sometimes you forget how many people it actually takes to make a film.
Yeah,
And
well,
I'm sorry.
I watched the movie here in Malta yesterday with the crew, you know, and normally at the end of a movie, you know, people get up and walk out. But if it's a cast and screen screening, people tend to stay because they want to see their names. I think we were in there for about 15 minutes just watching the credits go, and you know, and back in the day when we, you know, films were made very physically, you know, now that the CG world has come along, you know, the VFX people, you know, who do such an important job, there's hundreds of them, you know, of CGI artists, and thank goodness for them, because, you know, they really help bring the world together and give it scale.
Right, and it's incredible. What was the biggest part, the hardest part about making the Demeter?
But I think one of the hardest decisions was making the decision about whether we shot the entire movie in a studio, and by that I mean building the interiors, but also the exterior ship's deck in a studio, which gives you a certain amount of controllability, because, you know, you can bring in water cannons and wind machines, you know, you can control the light. Or shooting it actually at sea on a tank, in water, you know, with all the challenges that brings in terms of night, day, wind, you know, weather, things that can, you know, stop you filming even, you know. But I think to give the actors the best possible chance, you know, of feeling in a real world, I think making the decision to shoot it in a tank at night or in the daytime was the right one, you know, for the movie. So so that was the first biggest challenge. And then of course the technical challenges of doing that, you know, of creating a ship. I mean, the ship itself, the timber deck and the woodwork, if you like, the mass was about 54 tons, and that sat, for about 48 tons, and that sat on a metal barge, which is about 54 tons, full of air tanks that allows you to be able to move the ship. So by the time you've got all that weight, then you bring the crew on and the cast, you know, keeping something like that afloat, being able to move it, putting the sails up and down, you know, creating that world, that believable world. That's the next challenge, you know. And then of course keeping all those people safe at sea, you know, making sure that there's enough fire exits to get on and off the ship, you know, should something happen. There's always things that can go wrong, you know, the best laid plans. But also then, of course, you know, the biggest design challenge is making the ship feel real and making it feel as if it is, you know, fit for purpose, and that it is, in the terms of the Demeter, that it's an industrial cargo ship of the period. That's a workhorse that's really, and that's something that this monster can hide on, you know, and not be found, you know.
Well, it looked fantastic. I mean, it was very, very realistic.
Oh, great. I'm glad.
In fact, the film was fantastic all the way around. I loved it. And it really sucks you in, you know?
Yeah.
For a while there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, André Øvredal said that he wanted to make the scariest Dracula movie ever made, you know, and watching it last night and watching the people's reactions, you know, the partners of the crew, because a lot of the crew are sort of a bit blasé about it because they know what's coming, they've read the script. But even them, you know, and then their partners, there was so many people there last night hiding behind popcorn, you know, because there are terrifying moments. I mean, Andre's very good at that, you know. I don't know whether you've seen his other work, the director, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, you know, and I was a huge fan of Andre's work, and to get the chance to actually set sail with him and, you know, create something as iconic as Dracula at sea was just a remarkable opportunity. And it's scary. It really is scary, you know. My wife has said she's never going to watch it again. So,
Well, I mean, I was so pleased that we got the more animalistic, brutal, you know, Dracula instead of the fancy, you know, charismatic. Yeah, we've got enough of that. Because I was so glad to see it. Just that brutality in the movie was just got me, and it looked so good, and the ship was impressive.
yeah.
I mean, it felt like it was right there, you know?
Yes, yeah. And it trapped them, you know, there was nowhere for them to go. I mean, you're right in what you say. I think we've got the 60s and the 70s cinema to blame for the Dracula, you know, in the top hat and you know, and that was never the case, you know. That Dracula was always meant to be this vile, horrible, blood-sucking, you know, immortal person, you know, or creature. And you know, yeah, and Andre really wanted that, and we needed a ship, you know, that was going to provide the perfect backdrop for that, you know, and a ship that you could get lost on, and something that felt greasy and weathered, and you know, as horrible and as tarnished as he is, really, you know, with this ragabone crew of people that have come from all around the world to, you know, and all they're interested in is making money. You know, they just want to get across the ocean as quickly as possible to make the money, you know. And at one point they all take their lives in their own hands. But yeah, it's a really great chapter in the book, and something that I really wanted to get stuck in with. And you know, that ship was 214 feet long, you know. It was huge in terms, and it's a big piece of equipment to move around in a tank as well, you know, to get the right angles on it. But we managed it.
Yes, you did. It was, and it, you know, there are scenes where the boat is on the ocean and like with the dinghy. You know, was that actually filmed at sea, or was that in, you know, this tank that y'all created?
So the tank was built in Malta, I think, back during the Second World War. It was built for propaganda films for the Navy, the Royal Navy, and so they constructed this huge infinity tank, which basically, when you're on water level, you look out to sea, and there's almost a seamless link between the water in the tank and the sea. So, you know, certain angles you can certainly get infinity, and some of the shots you'll see in the movie where the ship is sort of in the daylight and on the water, we utilized that. But most of the sea was put in with visual effects, because the ship had to be moving at pace, or it was in a storm, or, you know, but all the interactive water was created in the tanks. So they have these huge metal ballasts that they drop into the water to create huge waves, and they have massive water cannons that you can shoot water over the ship into, you know, and even just the sort of the paintwork of the ship. You're going to be filming in the sun. It was 42 degrees sometimes in the tank, you know, and of course the paint that you use on the ship has to be very waterproof, because it's going to get washed off, it's going to bleach in the sun. You don't want the ship to go on a journey of losing its texture and color. So lots of challenges in terms of actually shooting physically in the tank, you know, so close to the water, you know. And Malta is a tiny little island in the Mediterranean, you know, there's no protection, so it gets a lot of wind. You know, when you're filming on a set that is a ship that's got real sails, that can become a problem, you know. So because the ship, once those sails go up, the ship wants to move, you know. And of course it is only a set, a floating set nevertheless. But yeah, so lots of challenges of actually filming. But we thought long and hard about whether we should shoot it all in a studio, or whether we should give the actors the best possible chance and shoot it at, you know, at sea. And I think we made the right one.
I think so too.
Great.
I mean, it really did. I'm a little bit jaded. I watch a lot of movies.
Right.
But like I said, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's got everything, and I love that it's so twisted. Like, there's no one safe. Nothing is safe on this boat.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie to you, may have got teary-eyed a little bit from him, you know, in certain scenes.
Yeah.
But it was good, and it had those, you know, both the real tension built and the jump scares.
Yeah.
Which so it plays out so well. And you know, I love hearing about these things, that the process of getting this, you know, any movie made or any series, because people, I mean, it's so easy to kind of put in the back of your mind that it takes hundreds of people to watch a movie. I mean, to make a movie.
Yeah.
And we need to remember more of that, you know?
Yeah. 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 It's a challenge, you know. You start with a blank piece of paper. I mean, you start with a script, you know, and you get given a script. And in terms of Dracula, you know, we had the book, and it's always great to refer to the book and the original text, and you know, and then also all the sort of historical documents that come with Bram Stoker actually writing the book, and how he sort of was in Whitby, and for true story, and you know, he saw a shipwrecked ship and thought, oh, that would be a great scene in a movie, you know, and so taking all of that and taking the period information, but then walking into an empty white office and starting with a blank piece of paper and a blank computer screen and thinking, okay, here we go, you know, and gathering all the best possible people from around the world that you can, if you're lucky enough to be able to get them, you know. And we did that, you know. We had a great team of marine engineers from the UK who do all this sort of type of movies, you know, working on ships, who came to Malta and helped us create, you know, the best possible ship, and the best ship designers. Mark Bitts, a character from a guy from Berlin who's superb at engineering all the ship and designing the lines, because you know, we're not making a documentary about a ship, we're making a movie about a ship, and you know, we had to overscale the ship so that we could get the crew on there, you know. So it's all those things that you have to think about when you're actually designing something that needs to look, you know, gothic horror and beautiful, but also practical in terms of not the audience not going, oh, well, that ship's a bit wider than it should be, because they got to get 60 crew on there as well as the cast, you know. And then it's the period detail, getting into the period detail with the set decorators, all the textures and the cloths, and the, you know, working with the costume designers to make sure that, you know, that the aging on their costumes matches the aging on the boat, and you know, the props, and you know, Dracula's staff, and making sure that it all has the real sort of beautiful detail that you'd expect from a gothic horror movie, you know. And I think I grew up on that stuff, you know, and it's stuff that I really enjoy doing. And I probably sometimes over-engineer my designs. I did a couple of movies called the escape room movies, you know. And you know, you have to sort of put so much detail into those movies that sometimes you do over-engineer them, and people say, but you'll never see it. And I say, well, I'll know it's there, you know. So.
And that was a good movie too. You're definitely good at what you do.
Oh, thank you. It's very kind.
And I can't wait for us to be able to talk about the Last Voyage of the Demeter with our readers and our viewers, and I think they're going to like it.
Yeah, well, hopefully they will. Yeah.
And I appreciate you, you know, taking the time to talk with me about this, because you are the first of your kind that we've interviewed.
Oh, great. Well, thank you very much. That's a huge privilege.
So yeah, you got a nice little title there to add on to it.
That's great. Great.
But you know, like I said, thank you so very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.